So I'm probably in the minority here, but I like the Disney Plus Ahsoka series. It wasn't the greatest thing to come out of Star Wars, but I did like parts of it, and I think that's definitely a win in my books, considering the current Star Wars standards. Anyway, I've always enjoyed Rosario Dawson's more mature portrayal of Ahsoka in The Mandalorian, so to get her own series with characters that revolved around her, especially from her Clone Wars days, was super excited. I love my Black Series version and had the Mayfix version on pre-order before this one was announced, but as soon as I saw those promotional pics, I knew this would be the live-action Ahsoka in my collection. So did my initial reactions hold true? Well, let's crack her open and take a look. So first up, the things I like about this figure. As soon as I got Ahsoka in hand, I couldn't believe just how good the faces look. I love my Black Series Ahsoka. This is the first release, not the 2-pack with the poncho. And I think Hasbro did a fantastic job with Rosario Dawson's likeness. But I think Tamashii have really outdone themselves. Her leku are a good length, you know, those things hanging down beside her head. They are longer than her appearance in The Mandalorian, but the markings are nice and clean. Her headband, that she should never take off, have some silver paint apps on those diamond motifs. The eyes, the lips, the subtle shading, it all looks really high quality. Which is better? Well, both are really, really good. And I gotta hand it to Hasbro for doing such a wonderful job at such a reasonable price. Not so reasonable here in Japan, but you guys know what I mean. In saying that, Figuarts does come with 3 options, and these 3 options are really good too. We have your standard neutral expression, and 2 other expressions that come straight from the Ahsoka show. A mid-lightsaber battle grunt when she's facing off against Anakin, and the Sith eyes or dark side Ahsoka expression as well. Again, great likeness to the actress, and all of her face markings came out really good. It's clean, the whites are white, the oranges are orange, no bleed, no fuzziness, just sharp, crisp printing. One of the reasons why I cancelled my Mafex pre-order, which I probably will go back and buy later, was because of the head sculpt. It isn't necessarily bad, but for me personally, there was just something slightly off about it, and in the end, it just wasn't what I was looking for. When it comes to a figure based on actual actors and real people, good head is really important, and I think Tamashii nailed it with Ahsoka. I also really like the top half of this figure. Ahsoka retains her aesthetics whilst giving you the articulation you need. One thing the Black Series suffered from was lack of any ab articulation, especially going forward, something a character like Ahsoka sorely needs. Figuarts have also given us a single solid sculpted torso, but we get way more movement in the waist, even with all her belts and straps covering up that area. We've seen this a lot with Figuarts recently, where the inner body is your hard traditional plastic, with garments being a softer rubbery plastic overlay. With Ahsoka, all of this middle, the waist pads, the sash, the belts, all of it's softer plastic that has all of the sculpt but still retains a good amount of waist articulation. But is her costume accurate to the show? Honestly, I really don't know, and I couldn't tell you if this was more of your Mando Ahsoka or your Ahsoka. But we do have some nice details going on with the sculpt. You get your blues, browns, gold accents, as well as some silver for your belt ring and lightsaber hooks. Yep, Ahsoka's lightsabers just hook on to these pretty solid hooks on the side of her waist, and they actually look pretty natural with or without her lightsabers on. Are they secure? Well, you're not going to be able to have Ahsoka doing any somersaults with them, but they hang in place securely enough. The gauntlets also look really good. You've got some decent paintwork on them. Your blues and silvers, they're probably the most mismatched part of the outfit. Everything else feels much more organic, but the gauntlets and boots feel like they've been left over from the Clone Wars, which is an element I really like about her design. So, moving on to the lower half, and I'm kind of indifferent about the legs. And while I like the look of the legs, the sculpt, the material-like texture on her balloon pants, the articulation is a little bit different to what we're used to, and to be honest, a little bit over-engineered. So instead of your traditional double jointed knees, Tamashii have given Ahsoka drop down hinge knees, which is what might be the best way to describe it. I'm guessing to compensate for those big baggy pants and to get as much bend out of the legs as possible, which Ahsoka needs. The knee at the thigh does drop down to give you more room to bend back. There's a pretty big gap there, but it does work. There's also another hinge from the knee to the thigh, so that also gives you a bit more extra range. And whilst you do get a really good bend, I think I would have preferred a more simpler approach, something like your Legends. And now to the poncho, that awesome looking poncho with the wide hood in those promotional shots, but in hand, it's pretty much a flaming piece of garbage. Sorry for the profanity, especially to my younger viewers, but this is not how you do cloth goods. It comes packed like a pre-pressed business shirt that has way too much starch in it. You can try to shape it to fit Ahsoka's body, but it's just not going to do anything. It's too stiff and can't hold any shape or form. The only part of the poncho that is wired is the hood, and even that takes some work to get into a natural look. It's sewn up in the middle, and the gap for the head to fit through is just a little bit too tight to get any movement, so you're basically stuck with the head in one position. The wires do help it to look like it's draping, but the back of the hood really isn't flattering at all. There's just too much material back there. If you want Ahsoka with the hood down, it's going to cause even more problems as the fabric is way too thick and just bunches up at the back and can't get it to sit naturally. So you have the choice of the hood looking like crap or even more crap. Take your pick. All in all, right out of the box, it's just a waste of an accessory, which is a huge disappointment since one of Ahsoka's coolest looks, in my opinion, is with her poncho. So I know this isn't something that you should have to do with the figure because it should already be this way, but I really do want the poncho to work. I really want to use it in my photos. So I washed it with some fabric softener and dried it on the figure itself so it would retain its form and give the illusion of draping. It's still a little bit stiff, but looks so much better than how it did right out of the box. I'm not sure how long it's going to keep its shape, but I may go over it with some hairspray or a mix of Mod Podge and water just to keep it as it is. But right now I'm pretty happy with it, and again, it's something that you shouldn't have to do as a consumer, but if you want the poncho to work, throw it in the washing machine and give it a go. Alright, so let's take a look at Ahsoka's articulation, starting off with her head. And these Leku, they do have a little bit of flex. It is, you know, not the softest, but not the hardest plastic either, so they do kind of push back and forward when you're trying to articulate the head up and down. It's not terrible, and it's definitely better than the Black series, but they are going to get in the way. But even with, you know, the back of her head, the Leku hanging down there, she gets a decent amount going up. It's not fantastic, but there is some movement. Looking down is okay as well, but I think the more important bit of articulation there is moving up, because, you know, when you have Ahsoka, you know, crouched down, you want her to look up as she's crouching down. You get side to side tilt, which is pretty good. And I think that has a lot to do with her neck there. You also get a swivel left and right. So, I mean, all things considered, I think they did a pretty good job. For her shoulders, we do get some butterfly joints going forward, and it's decent. It's not the best, so you can probably get her to double hold. You can get her to hold a lightsaber with both hands. You just have to kind of stretch the arms out a little bit and kind of bring in those elbows and the wrists, but it is possible. And that's what it looks like at the back. They don't extend back far too much. That's about it. So there is some range there. Going up, You do get a little bit past 90 degrees. Actually, way past 90 degrees. And there we go. There we go. Both arms. Way past 90 degrees, which is great. And the reason why I have her lightsabers on, I know they're going to get in the way, is because, you know, that's probably how you're going to have your Ahsoka 90% or 99% of the time, right? Holding her lightsabers. She does have a single joint there for the elbow, but it gets past 90 degrees, which is great. And there is, you know, their hidden swivel there at the shoulder. So, you know, it makes it nice and clean. Although, I mean, they could have given us a swivel there where her armbands meet her arm there. That also would have been pretty good, but that's okay. She also has a bit of swivel there at her elbows. And of course, your hinges and swivel at the wrist. So yeah, pretty good arm articulation. So for her torso, it is on a ball joint connected to her waist. Like I said, her belt piece here, you know, all of this stuff here is soft plastic. So you do get pretty good crunch going forward. Pretty good going back. Really good side to side. And of course, a swivel there as well. For her legs, a little bit squeaky, but she gets a really good spread going out. Not quite 180, but good enough. She kicks forward really high, which is great, and kicks back just as well. Her crotch piece here is a softer rubbery piece as well, which does help. Let's get those legs back in place. You have a thigh cut, very squeaky thigh cut. Definitely try to oil that up later. Those drop down, kind of over-engineered knees, but he gets pretty good range. There is no boot cut there, but you do have a swivel there at the foot. The feet go down a really good amount. Whee! They do move up. Toe hinge. And we do get some pretty good ankle articulation. So, I mean, yeah, really good articulation here for Ahsoka, which, of course, she needs because she's super agile, and that's, you know, that's basically her character. But yeah, have fun with posing Ahsoka around. Definitely really good stuff. Alright, so Ahsoka comes with a couple of hand options. We get 2 fists for punching, though I don't think I've ever seen her punch anyone before. A pair of holding hands for holding the Arcana star map or whatever you want her to hold. A set of open palm action hands or force pushing hands, or just for looking cool. And a couple of lightsaber wielding hands to hold her iconic double lightsabers. We get both the short and long saber hilts and blades to accompany them. The sabers are a nice shiny silver with some gold accents, and the blades are a translucent milky white. I like the tips of the blades. It's more on the pointy side than your more traditional rounded blades, I guess. You can swap out the standard blades with a pair of swoosh effect blades as well, and Tamashii have recommended in an official blog that you use them with a stand to hold them up. They are heavy, but compared to Vader's swoosh effect, they're about the same weight. I think because Ahsoka is a slimmer, slightly smaller figure, the wrist joints aren't as big and probably won't be able to support the weight over a long period of time. It's perfectly fine now without stands, but I think for prolonged poses or displays, I can see it succumbing to gravity. The last accessories Ahsoka comes with are the Arcana star map she uses in the show, both in its complete form and sliced in half form. The sliced in half form does come on a runner that you have to detach yourself, but you just pop it apart. There really isn't anything to it. It's gold, it's sculpted relatively well, and I'll probably never display Ahsoka with it. I mean, it's there if you want it, and you can probably use it for something else in your toy photography, but as is, it's fine. Aesthetically speaking, without the poncho, I probably like this version of Ahsoka the most, although I guess I can't really make a fair comparison because I don't have the Muffix, but the head sculpt, the face plates, and the overall sculpt is fantastic, again, without the poncho. It poses really well despite being overly complicated with the knees, and the accessories are decent for a Star Wars lightsaber wielding character. I think the definitive version of a live action Ahsoka is probably a combination of all three figures. I think you'd still be pretty satisfied with the figure arts if you could only choose one. The poncho sucks, but it is fixable to some degree, and I mean, if you don't care for that look anyway, you could just toss it all together. But what I'm really hoping for is that Tamashii give us a few more characters from this line. I'm not asking for all of them, but I would absolutely love to see a Clone Wars Anakin and Captain Rex in either his Phase 1 or Phase 2 armor. I've been working on this custom for years now, and I know I'll never get it finished, so please Tamashii, if you're watching, I'm only asking for these two, Clone Wars Anakin and Captain Rex. Alright guys, that's it from me. I hope you enjoyed the review. I know there aren't too many Star Wars fans amongst my subscribers, but I like Star Wars and you guys know I review what I like. I'll be back to my meat and potatoes for my next review, and it's one that I'm super excited to look at. It's not the archive review, which is in the works, which I'm also super excited about, but thanks to a couple of mates, I managed to grab the SDCC Goku and Kakashi, and I cannot wait to crack them open and share my thoughts. Either one of those will be up on the channel next week, so make sure you come back for it. Anyway, have a great week guys, stay cool if it's summer where you are, and as always,
よろしく